You're watching Oklahoma's News 4 this morning.
Coming up this morning on Oklahoma's News 4 at 4, a newly released search warrant giving us new insight into the death of an Edmond man, what we've now uncovered. Plus, an arson investigation now underway after new details emerge about a Metro house fire. Hear how police say a feud could have started it all. Good morning, I'm Jessica Bruno. It's Wednesday, July 10th. We've got Damian Lotus joining us with our forecast this morning, starting to slowly readjust to the shift.
Yeah, that's right, Jess, and we've got a lot of weather to talk about here for today. We're going to be tracking dangerous heat and also the chance of severe weather as we head into this afternoon. So let's go ahead and talk about the heat first. This is what's going to be impacting a lot of folks here for today. Now, for all of central and southern Oklahoma, we are under an excessive heat advisory here for today. All these counties right here highlighted in red, we can see heat index values over 110 degrees. So much like yesterday, we're expecting a lot of heat here for today. Live look from our Rose State camera. For the most part, we have a mild start here for today. Temperatures in the upper 70s. Dew points are also in the upper 70s, so we're going to see a very mild and muggy start here for today. 77 for Chandler, Shawnee, 79 for Spencer, and look at this, already starting off at 81 degrees this morning for you folks waking up and joining us in Kingfisher. Live look at our storm scanner. Not really tracking anything. Got a few little clouds here or there, but for the most part, it's going to be we're going to see plenty of sunshine here for today. Temperatures in the 80s as you're making that drive into work. Highs today will make it into the 90s, but we will be tracking that potential for severe weather. The overall threat for severe weather is going to be low. It's going to be widely scattered, but if any storms do fire as a front makes its way through, they will be capable of producing large hail and damaging winds and some heavy rainfall, so we're going to be tracking that. And coming up, Jess, I'll give you an hour-by-hour breakdown of just what to expect here as we head into this afternoon.
All right, Damian, thank you. We're following some breaking news this morning. One person dead following an overnight shooting. This is a live look at the scene near Northeast 48th and Blackwelder. It happened around 2 this morning. A victim pronounced dead at the scene. We're still gathering details, but we do know the suspect remains on the run. A person shot in what police call a road rage shooting. It happened last night as two cars pulled out of a neighborhood near Southeast 59th and Stiles. Officers say as the two cars pulled up to a stop sign, two people got out of the first car with guns and shot at the victim in the car behind. We know the two suspects got back in their car, drove west while the victim drove a block east. They stopped at a Valero where they were taken to the hospital. No word on their condition. Police are searching for those two suspects still at this hour. 4 people in cuffs, squad cars, tow trucks, and guns, all at a chaotic scene near Northwest Expressway in Independence. Police there say 3 cars were involved, and all 4 suspects are teens. They were called to an apartment complex after the teens were seen waving guns around and pointing them at people. When police got to the scene, the teens were found inside an SUV. That's when they took off. A chase ensued with 2 cars hit before the teens crashed out. They then tried to make a run for it.
4 subjects took off from the vehicle from there, all running in different directions, and officers were able to get all 4 of them in custody. So we've learned since then that at least one of them has several warrants and is a suspect in a number of recent assaults with a deadly weapon here in Oklahoma City.
Police say that teen is a suspect in the Bricktown shooting from a couple Saturdays ago. 2 weapons were recovered. Police say no one else was injured in those crashes. A murder mystery that's playing out like a story on Dateline. Family, friends, neighbors, and police all asking the same question. What happened to 24-year-old Sawyer English? News 4's Peyton Yeager tackling the story through a newly uncovered court document that cuts straight to the core of this unsolved crime.
I know my neighbors.
But when asked if the people on First Street knew Sawyer English,
No, I did not.
I didn't know him.
the 24-year-old found dead inside his Edmond home with multiple gunshot wounds to the back after he didn't show up to work for nearly a week. His body found by police after concerned coworkers called 911. For this murder, mom still seems to be the word.
I just let them do their work.
That is until Tuesday. Newly released court documents reveal a break in the case. The same day, News 4 ran into a biohazard cleanup crew at the home. Workers seen roping off hazardous materials, boxing up English's belongings.
It definitely is shocking.
This search warrant shows police spotted 3 shell casings outside the home under a window with a bullet hole in it. Inches away, a black mask discovered at the bottom of this trash can. Blood found in the kitchen, living room, and splattered on the wall. And pounds of drugs, scales, and pipes found scattered with $3,000 in cash.
Really made us realize that we're not maybe paying attention to the details.
But the details don't stop there. Detectives finding woman's underwear under English's bed along with a used condom in the trash can.
It's kind of freaky, but when you live in a freaky neighborhood, it's not as freaky as some of the other stuff that goes on here.
Sawyer's family still not ready to speak publicly. Police haven't mentioned any suspects or persons of interest. Those living nearby feeling uneasy about the unsolved murder next door. Overly suspicious as they try to comb through their memories of anything unusual they saw that weekend. One telling us there was a visitor they'd never seen before.
I saw a truck down there.
She says she didn't think anything of it until now.
It didn't seem like they were having a confrontation.
That was Peyton Yeager reporting. The search warrant also reveals English did have an in-home surveillance camera located in a back room inside the house. Detectives are in possession of the camera, but will not confirm if key evidence was recorded. Also this morning, a couple in Stroud murdered their son in custody as a person of interest. Mark and Pauletta Pittman were found dead inside their home yesterday morning. OSBI says their bodies were found in the living room and bedrooms. Their son, Sean Pittman, on the run for hours. Pittman later busted and booked on DUI complaints less than a mile away from the home. As of right now, Pittman, the only listed person of interest in the murders since he lived at that same house, but police have not named him as a suspect at this time.
We have had disturbance calls involving Mr. Pittman in the past, yes.
In this home?
Yes, and along with some alcohol-related issues.
Right now, it's unclear how Mark and Pauletta Pittman were killed. On Crime Watch this morning, we're now seeing the tense moments leading up to a shootout between an officer and an armed suspect. Oklahoma City Police releasing this body cam video. Back in late May, officers rushed to a home near the area of Northwest 36th and Meridian. Police say a person called 911 after they saw a man waving a gun. There were reports that the man also hit a woman with a car. When officers arrived, they confronted the suspect, who then pulled out a gun and opened fire.
Get your hands up! Got one running with a gun! 113, shots fired.
The suspect, Ronald Barton Jr., tried to get away by running into the backyard of the home. That's where he was surrendered by police, handcuffed, and hauled off to jail. Also this morning, fire investigators say a feud with homeless people led to a man setting a fire that gutted a Northwest Oklahoma City home. Back on June 24th, neighbors reported a blazing inferno at Northwest 13th and Harvard. Court records show Robert Cravey was in some kind of feud with homeless people living in that house. His girlfriend telling police he set the fire in retaliation for the homeless people trying to break into her apartment next door. They go on to say the girlfriend saw Cravey returning to the apartment complex, coming through the fence, holding a charcoal lighter container.
It puts our firefighters at great risk every time we have to go into a fire. So it's obviously something, if we can take someone off of the streets who is doing that type of thing, that's what we want to do.
Cravey now faces first-degree arson charges. Well, switching gears, the heat index climbing to triple digits this week, and crews from several agencies teaming up to show what happens when a child is locked in a hot car. In the month of June alone, crews responded to 40 calls of kids being locked in a car. Nationally, there have been 18 deaths in cases where kids have been stuck in cars that got too hot. AAA recommends leaving something in your back seat to remind you that your child is there, like your cell phone.
Either our phone, our shoe, our purse, something. And even though our child is way more valuable than our phone, purse, or shoe, it's just, you know, we just have to understand how distracted and how full our brains are.
And another reminder for anyone who notices a child locked in a hot car, you should take action immediately and call 911. Well, the rules governing prescription pot in Oklahoma are changing just slightly, though. The revisions were made during the 2019 legislative session. Now the state's medical marijuana authority says it's working to implement them. One of the biggest changes removes a requirement for doctors who prescribe medical marijuana to be board certified. If you'd like to read all of the new rules, look for this story over at KFOR.com. And sales of medical marijuana are getting higher and higher. The Oklahoma Tax Commission released new numbers for the month of June. Officials say tax collections for medical marijuana topped just over $2 million last month. That's up by $500,000 just since May. Sales have gone up every month since dispensaries opened in Oklahoma. So far, more than 146,000 Oklahomans have a medical marijuana license. It is 4:09. Coming up after the break, the family of a toddler who fell to her death on a cruise, demanding answers from the cruise line. We'll have an update in that case in just a few minutes. And a critter snatched from his home in the middle of the night, the emotional plea from the owner of an animal rescue. And Damian Lotus is following another hot day.
That's right, Jess. We are under an excessive heat warning here for this afternoon. Some heat index values could top 110. We're also going to be tracking the potential for severe weather. I'll have that latest 411 forecast coming up.
And you only have a few more minutes to send us your photos for Snapshot Show Off. You can send those to Damian on Facebook or Twitter. We'll be right back.
You're watching Oklahoma's News 4 This Morning with Jessica Bruno and Damian Lotus. Oklahoma's News 4, looking out for you.
A fiery feud between homeowners finally ignites into a literal ball of flames. This is one of those cases where the truth is stranger than fiction. Last week, fire crews were called out to a house fire in Del City. They managed to douse the flames, but not before it caused a pretty extensive damage there. Authorities releasing these photos of their suspect, a woman in a blue tank top, appears to be throwing a flaming rag over the fence. Now, this is where the story takes another odd turn. Some of us in our newsroom thought that woman looked awfully familiar, so we checked our footage from that day. Turns out that woman, or a woman who looks like her, actually spoke to News 4 on camera as we were there covering the scene. News 4's Brent Skarkey has more on what she said and why investigators can't wait to get their hands on that footage.
On camera, setting the fire.
Del City fire officials releasing surveillance pictures shot with the alleged arsonist's own camera. It all started last week. Fire crews battling huge flames in the garage of this Del City home.
We knew it was a condemned house.
That's why investigators took a closer look at how it started, uncovering a feud between the burnt home's owner and the lady living next door.
Things just, things start adding up, being suspicious.
Police noticed cameras in one of the home's yards. 59-year-old Annie Durham giving investigators permission to look at her footage, where it turns out she had a starring role, allegedly throwing something on fire over her fence into the neighbor's open side door.
It's not a Molotov cocktail, but it was a stick that had a rag or a towel wrapped around it, had some lighter fluid poured on it.
But the story gets even more bizarre. News 4 talked to Durham that day, moments after the fire was put out.
All I know, I was in the house and I saw smoke, but I was like, okay, maybe everything's okay, they'll put it out or whatever.
Fire officials anxious to take a look at the person we talked to.
We knew that there was a neighbor that did an interview with you all, trying to place that person with who was seen on the surveillance footage. And by looking at both of them, it does appear that that is the same person.
I talked to neighbors. They say the burnt home had been a problem for years. Police and fire called out multiple times. Durham agreed when we spoke to her that day.
There's been drug addicts living there, running in and out. This is the only drug house I know there's ever been.
In addition, officials say fighting the fire could have been a disaster, finding a flooded basement with 8 feet of standing water.
It placed our firefighters at great harm. We could easily be talking about a firefighter fatality.
Durham arrested, facing second-degree arson charges.
We understand the neighborhood dispute, but you definitely don't resort to a fire as a means of conflict resolution.
It is not every day we interview an alleged arsonist. Investigators telling us Annie claims she was trying to burn off weeds along the fence between the two homes. Officials say those second-degree arson charges could put Durham in prison for up to 25 years. And a workplace accident sends a sandwich shop employee to the hospital. This was terrifying. Emergency crews rushed to Lee's Sandwiches at Northwest 30th and Classen yesterday morning. They tell us a worker got his hand caught in a machine. The man was then taken to the hospital. Right now, his condition has not yet been released. Well, switching gears, our In Your Corner team beating the heat for a good cause. Our 9th annual fan drive, and boy, did you show up. Let's take a listen.
Hey, one word, awesome.
Oh, Scott, you are awesome. The cash donations and fans just kept rolling in. At last count, we collected over 220 fans in a span of 3 hours. Our team got a big assist from the community. The Bricktown Rotary Club, Rogers Promotional Marketing, the Oklahoma Senior Journal, and so many other partners pitched in to make this event a success. Chef Bruce Reinhart was back dishing out his signature hugs and cookie appetizers while donning a fierce pair of red, white, and blue shorts.
Fans, bring your fans, bring your fans, and we will dance! Woo!
I have MS, and I'm just blessed to have air conditioning, and I just feel like helping out other people that don't have air conditioning, so it means a lot to me.
Now, here's the best part. We beefed up the Salvation Army's fan stash in a major way, which means they won't have to turn away any more families who could really use the cool air right now. And if you need Scott Hines in your corner, call our hotline or send us a message on our website. Those storms that Damien mentioned rolling through over the weekend, causing some damage in northern Oklahoma. These photos are from an area near Deer Creek in Grant County. You can see winds down several structures and trees there in that area. Right now, it's unclear if this damage was caused by a QLCS tornado or straight line winds. We'll keep you posted on that. And in eastern Oklahoma, they're continuing to clean up this morning after storms blew through their area as well. The town of Manford hit especially hard. Homeowners say the destruction happened in less than a minute. Trees down, roofs of buildings ripped off, debris scattered across the city. Those who witnessed the whole thing left completely shocked by what they saw.
Out of the blue, about 2 seconds, it was like hurricane winds. We saw stuff starting to blow across the parking lot. The trees were bending over. And it was just crazy winds. Never seen anything like it before. Lived here my whole life.
And as you can imagine, the city is still recovering from the historic flooding that occurred last month. The added rain has not helped. And those storms causing at least one death here in Oklahoma. According to OHP, a 64-year-old woman drowned after driving into a flooded creek near Poteau. Vicki Darnell was driving alone when her car was swept off the road around 4:30 yesterday morning. Her body was found outside of the car about 3 hours later. Severe storms dropped more than 2 inches of rain across that area.